Hi, what I'm going to show you how to do is create a type composition using Illustrator. The first thing I want to show you is how to create a new document with 10 artboards. In the project description, you are creating 10 different compositions. So we're going to have them be 6 inches by 6 inches, and it says 10 artboards here. So that's what I had just last opened, so it remembered that. I want you to scroll down to more settings. And so when you get to more settings, you can see the number of artboards is 10. Spacing in between each one, I'm making 3 inches because you can see over here, I have my letter forms exceeding past the edge of the box. Actually, let's make it 4 just to be safe. Okay, I'm going to have it, there's 10 of them, so 5 and 5, 2 different rows. And then I will say create document. Doesn't matter the color mode we're in right now because it's going to be all black and white. So now I'm going to zoom in here, and I am going to start with the text tool, and I'm going to click. You see it comes up with lorem ipsum. I'll just start with the L, so I delete those other letters, and I'm going to go up here and I can make it 72 points, or if I want to make it larger, I can hold down the shift key and drag. If I don't hold down the shift key, see the way it distorts it, and we don't want to do that. So hold down the shift key. So Myriad Pro is the default, so I'm going to keep this L. I'm going to copy and paste another one, and I'm going to select this, and I'm going to change it to a different font. So I am going to change it to a Garamond. Now you could go and start typing in here. I'm not going to because while I'm recording this, it keeps the command keys for the recording override the command keys for Illustrator, and I've restarted 3 times. It's driving me a little batty right now. But so here's another L. We can change this to perhaps a lowercase g because they have a lovely lowercase g, excuse me, in Garamond. And let's see, I'm going to copy and paste, and let's make maybe a question mark. That's kind of a cool question mark. And I'm going to copy and paste, and I can hold down the shift key to make smaller and try another letter. So now when I scroll up here and I'm holding on to this question mark, as I scroll down, well, I guess maybe I'm not, it's just showing me the sample text. So let me pick a, I'll take din. Sometimes when you're selected on a particular character, let me try again. Yeah, there it is. I wasn't selected properly. So it's showing me that actual character. So say, so I already have a question mark. Oops, that's a different one. I'm going to copy and paste, and let's try the letter R, capital R. I'm selecting it, and now you can see all my different R's. So which R would I like to use? So I'm going to continue scrolling down here. Let's see. Actually, I'll try balloon drop shadow. That's kind of fun. And copy and paste. And let me try a capital T. And I'll change this font to something else as well. Scrolling down. It's a very classic T. So you can swivel it. So notice when I just spin it, and then if I hold the shift key, it rotates it in increments of 45%. So you should have more characters in here than this, minimum of 10, I believe I have in the specs. So let's just copy these and paste them again because you know how to manipulate that by now. And I was holding down the shift key, so it rotated them all by 45 degrees. And then I can move them around and start looking at how they interact and play with some interesting composition. I can drag. See, it's fun the way that dot can intersect in there. So how do I want to play with that? One thing I want to remind you that's in the brief is not to start making out any words, or it's supposed to be very abstract, so you don't want to make pictures of little faces or anything that's too recognizable, just abstract playing with the typography. So now I've got everything solid, but what I'm going to do now is I am going to play with transparency. So let me close this up, and I don't need these boxes here. Whenever you don't want anything, you can pull it out and just hit the X. So I have this L selected here, so I want to play with the opacity here. I'll make it 40% or whatever I made it. Play with different percentages. So in the end, we're going to play with colors, and we're going to be looking at the negative spaces and the overlap and the shapes that it makes in the overlap. So as you play around, you might want to have something that feels constrained and fussy, or maybe you want something and you don't want to keep having the same letters duplicated. You do want something a little more unique. So let me change this one actually. Just make it that, and I will make it a different letter. Let me make it a W. Okay. So this R is, I don't want it to, it's so different, I don't want it to stand out too much. So if I crop it off and overlap it, it makes it a little more abstract. So let me make an H and select this and make it there. Okay. Chiseled looking H. Okay, so I've got this composition. Now I want to show you a few more tools. So one thing is the Pathfinder, which is one of my favorite tools. And what it does is it takes shapes and it plays with them. But the first thing I need to do is I need to create outlines for this text. I'm going to show you what that is. But first I'm going to copy all of this, copy, paste, and move it over to this composition here, just so I have it all to refer to in a moment. So I'm going to select all my text. And I did that by dragging over everything and selecting it. So you can see it's got this little blue underline. That means it's text that I can go over and edit. So I am going to turn this all into outlines by going up to the T type tool, create outlines. Now watch what happens. So those little blue lines went away. And what I actually have now is each one of these letters is no longer actually fluid type, but it is a shape. See the points, the handles there? That means that it is a shape that can be manipulated just like a box. So if I draw a box, see all those points that can be manipulated, right? So this H is the same way. I can go, and if I pull that, notice the way it's taking it as a shape rather than that H. Again, if I hit the Shift key, I can constrain it. So we don't want boxes on there. I'm going to release that. So now these are all outlines. Okay, so I can now take this. I'm going to make this one, take this opacity down on this H and look at the way it overlaps these different shapes. Okay, so now the Pathfinder tool, not in love with this composition, but I'm doing a demonstration, so I'll just let it go. So this tool here is the Pathfinder tool. It's got 2 boxes overlapping. So you find that tool and you you select some shapes that are overlapping. Let me make it more dramatic. Let me move some of these out just so it's not confusing. I show you exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to overlap this W and this G. I've selected both of them. Notice the blue line is around both of them. Going to my Pathfinder tool, and there's different options. So if I select this one, it makes it all one shape. So let me fill this with a color just so you can see how it stands out. We're only working in black and white right now, but I wanted you to see what happens there, okay? So I'll make it black again, and I'm going to Command Z so that Command Z it all the way back into two different shapes. I'm going to go to Pathfinder again, and I'm going to click this here, and what that does is, see, it reduced it to only the stuff that overlaps. But what you will be doing is you want to have each one of these individual shapes. So if you click this one right here, it didn't look like anything really happened. It was called divide, but what it actually did was it made each one of these a different shape. There's a dreadful rainbow wheel. So each one of these are a different shape, and this is what we ultimately want to do because you are going to play with the colors. Make this CMY. Okay, just so you can see how I can make each one of these a different color, just so you can see the different parts here. Let me make this quicker and make all of this CMYK. Okay, so I'm switching back and forth with the different arrows. If I select, these different pieces are still all grouped. So even though I've split them into pieces, it leaves them as a group. So I have to go in and grab each individual section, right? To ungroup them, and it also filled in the center there, right? To ungroup them, you would select this group with the black arrow, and you would go up to Object, Ungroup. And so now I can select the different pieces of this composition. Okay, so I could fill this in with the color. So I'm getting ahead of ourselves right now because basically I just wanted to keep this all at black and white, but I wanted you to see how it all comes together. So what I have now are these different aspects here, so we can play with these two here, and I can also go and make this Pathfinder go to the divide, and so it changed all of those, and so I'm going to select all of this and just divide it for now. So you will want to play with that on some, but some you might just want to leave as different pieces all together, and so just making different compositions. So I'm going to zoom out. You're going to make 10 compositions, so instead of starting from scratch with each different letter, you can copy and paste and put something down, and then you can go in. See, this is why I saved it without having gone and created outlines for all of them, because what I want to do, once you create the outlines, you can't change that letter form again. So let me make this a P, and maybe I want to make it a totally different font, like that. You probably have just enough fonts within what happens automatically with Illustrator, but I want to show you how to access more fonts too. If you hit the Creative Cloud, you might show up here in your sidebar or up on the top. Either one, it gets you the same place. So you click that and you can pick additional fonts. So you see these are the fonts I have turned on. You can also turn them off, deactivate, And if there's a font you're not using a lot, you definitely want to deactivate it. But you can browse for more fonts. It'll take a moment. I'm not sure why that happened. Now I've got it opening up in two boxes. Okay, here. Taking a while. So these Adobe fonts come automatically with your Creative Suite. So say you want to pick some funky fonts, so you can scroll down and see which funky fonts you want. So you can view a whole family. Lots of these don't have a extensive family if they're really funky. If it's more traditional, it probably does have an extensive family. So let's, if we like this one, we can view the family. You can also, where it's a, you can type in the words that you're looking for. Sorry, I'm going to activate this font. Okay, so now when I go back to Illustrator, it's called Custard Regular, so let me go back into Illustrator. Watching the rainbow ball for a while. Well, what's going to happen is when I go to pick the fonts, Custard is going to show up automatically in this list, which is what's taking for a while because it's loading it in there. So if I select my T tool and I go up here and I go back in and I scroll to Custard right there. So there's that new font that I just created. Okay, so you will do 10 of these images and save them as a document, and then next week we'll take it from the next step. So you're starting with nice compositions.